Every company is really having to adapt incredibly quickly to the changing environment. And what we're seeing is the world is mounting a 21st century pandemic response. And what does that mean? It means using the power of the internet, the power of software to rapidly reconfigure for the changing realities ahead of us. And what we've seen is examples of retail, where you see curbside pickup and contactless delivery. You see healthcare with telemedicine. You see education with distance learning. You see banking with contactless account opening. You see all these use cases that are arising and having to be built incredibly quickly in order for businesses to respond to the changing environment. And what Twilio offers to those companies is digital engagement, the ability to do so using digital technologies instead of face-to-face, software agility, the ability to build those solutions quickly on the fly as the needs are changing, as well as cloud scale. The ability to build something and know that it's going to work when you turn it on, whether it's in terms of the number of customers, but also in terms of worldwide, because this is, of course, a worldwide pandemic.
Yeah. I'm curious about the coronavirus efforts on behalf of the company as well. I mean, you just mentioned telehealth and the work you're doing in that industry, but also the fact that you're partnering with New York City for contact tracing, obviously a key component, I think, of the reopening of economies right now, and certainly in focus, especially as we hear from reports that a number of states and a number of municipalities are maybe falling short in terms of those tracing efforts. What does it look like in terms of your partnership in New York, and how efficient, how effective are those methods?
Contact tracing is a great example where the world really had to innovate. Most of us, if you're not an epidemiologist, were unfamiliar with the term contact tracing, several months ago. But we've had to, as a society, deploy it at scale very quickly. And we have a contact center product called Flex, which is designed to be integrated and extended by developers working in every kind of organization. So our Flex contact center product has been used by organizations to enable work from home contact centers and things like that. But one of the unexpected areas was how Flex could be used for organizations and governments to rapidly stand up contact tracing. So New York City is a great example where contact tracing is basically the act of when you find out somebody has COVID, finding out who they may have been in contact with, contacting those people and putting those people on a self-quarantine schedule and on a watch list to see if they are developing symptoms and if they then need to be contact traced. And that takes people. It takes experts as well as a lot of labor in order to contact all those people to successfully trace. If you look at what New York City has been doing, they stood this up around June 1st. And so far, their efforts put into contact tracing have been successful. And so I think what we're going to see is more focus put on contact tracing at city level and increasingly at state level to enable states to more safely reopen because they know they have the response in place for when outbreaks inevitably will start to happen. The key thing is to be able to nip those outbreaks in the bud as opposed to letting them go on and therefore having to shut down again. And so we are very excited to be partnered with the City of New York as well as many other municipalities and states on their ability to roll out effective contact tracing using tools like voice phone calls and text messaging to check on constituents as they are going through the cycle of potentially having been in contact with someone with COVID. And so it's one of these use cases that, again, I never would have expected at the beginning of this year, but that shows the power of a platform like Twilio's to enable innovation that we now need as a society, so much innovation, whether it's in companies or whether it's in cities and states and federal governments who are mounting their responses in a modern way.
Jeff, clearly there's been a large theme of digital adoption over the last couple of months. Are there any identifiable themes, maybe via sector perhaps, of companies that were massively behind the curve on digital adoption and have been forced to speed that up all of a sudden?
Well, we've talked about telemedicine. We've talked about distance learning. It's interesting. I was on the phone last week with the CIO of a major retailer, and the CIO said that they saw e-commerce adoption experience 5 years of growth in the course of Q2, basically. And so you think about the number of new customers, the number of new shipments, and scaling up every part of that business to meet the surge in demand. To have a 5-year acceleration of customer adoption of their e-commerce capabilities is substantial. And so in order to build their way to be able to service those customers successfully, to create a successful outcome, a great experience, be able to keep the products flowing, to keep up with customer service requests like where's my order, all of those things require investment, and platforms like Twilio enable them to scale up to meet the surge in demand, because a lot of organizations, as you mentioned before, had digital transformation plans, and these plans were on the shelf. They were slotted to take 5 years. And, the usual process of innovation is you have ideas, you test them, there's proponents, there's the naysayers, and it goes through the corporate process of getting implemented over the course of time. But during COVID, what you've seen is this great digital acceleration, because the cost of change is basically zero. There's no alternative to not doing, there's no alternative to not doing these things. You have to innovate, and you have to serve your customers. There's no choice. And so a lot of the friction, a lot of the reasons why one might not engage in the digital transformation efforts just melted away, because serving customers and keeping our employees engaged and employed and growing to serve during this time has been the #1 focus of every executive team at every company. And digital is how you do it.